The Quad Summit was held on September 21, 2024 in Wilmington, Delaware. The Quad partnership, comprising the United States, Japan, India, and Australia, were represented by their respective heads of state at the conference. Upon the summit's conclusion, the group released a joint communiqué, which included the phrase, "International order based on the rule of law, respect for sovereignty, and territorial integrity." This particular phrasing is commonly used to identify sides of international issues, such as the tensions in the Indo-Pacific with the People's Republic of China. Some of the goals included enhancing the resilience of the Quad partners' semiconductor supply chain and expanding the naval interoperability of the four nations in the Indo-Pacific, a clear response to China's aggressive stance in the Western Pacific. Starting on October 1st, the Italian and Indian navies conducted their first-ever aircraft carrier-to-aircraft carrier exercise in the Arabian Sea. Both India and Italy deployed a carrier strike group led by the Indian aircraft carrier, INS Vikramaditya, escorted by the destroyer INS Visakhapatnam, and the Italian aircraft carrier ITS Cavour and the frigate ITS Alpino. Italy is not part of the Quad group, but the fact that the Italian Navy deployed an aircraft carrier to the Indo-Pacific and the Western Pacific was noteworthy. However, China finds it concerning that a NATO country is conducting exercises with its rival, India. China's statements over the South China Sea threaten the freedom of the seas, which both India and Europe have an interest in. India also has an interest in keeping the Indo-Pacific open for trade, as it is considered the primary beneficiary of the Western decoupling from China. India has an interest in the freedom of the seas in the Indo-Pacific, the Strait of Malacca, and the South China Sea. It has also given its public diplomatic support to the Philippines and its ongoing issues with China, as well as supplying the Philippines with supersonic cruise missiles. The exercise with the Italian Navy preceded the Malabar 2024 naval exercise. The Malabar exercise is a biannual exercise between India and the U.S. that has been occurring since 1992. Malabar 2024 will be the 16th iteration of the exercise, and unlike its predecessors, it will include Japan and Australia, thereby encompassing the entire Quad. India is the host nation and will provide 7 ships, including a fleet oiler and a submarine, while the other nations will be providing 1 warship each along with anti-submarine aircraft operating from India. The mission, both shore-based and sea-based, aims to enhance interoperability among the navies and prepare for the 2025 Quad Summit interoperability mission among the Quad nations. India has traditionally been a non-aligned nation that does maintain relations with both Russia and the West even during the Cold War. During the Cold War, India tended to be more Soviet-aligned, but it was not hostile to the West. However, this closeness to the Soviet Union required the West to maintain friendly relations with India's rival, Pakistan, in order to maintain geopolitical balance. India's decision to actively participate in the Quad, its public endorsement of an international rules-based order, and its support for various factions to counterbalance China do not necessarily signify a change in its non-alignment status. India is a founding member of BRICS, which is led by China and Russia, and is committed to creating alternative institutions, trade rules, finance, and monetary policies to the traditional Western-dominated institutions and international laws that have governed much of international relations and finance since the end of World War II and gained more influence at the end of the Cold War. India supports uplifting the developing world and the global South to give them more influence in international affairs and trade. Despite being neutral in the Ukraine war, India purchases discounted Russian oil that supports the Russian war machine. It has also sold artillery shells to Europe, who in turn transferred them to Ukraine. India is concerned about the geopolitical threat posed by China, not for its physical safety, as China would not be able to overtake India in a conventional land war, nor would it be able to project power into the Indian Ocean to defeat the Indian Navy. India knows that it is poised to overtake China as the factory of the world, as demographics and China's aggressive policies have the West looking for an alternative. India has a larger population that is younger than China's, so it is expected that India will provide lower labor rates than China, which has labor rates that will continue to rise. India also has a democratic tradition, and outside of its occasional issues with Pakistan and relatively minor border clashes with China, It has demonstrated that it does not have the aggressive territorial ambitions or the totalitarian impulses of Chinese leader Xi Jinping. This makes Western countries more open to shifting away from China. India's willingness to participate in multilateral agreements like Quad, designed to counterbalance China's threat, does not stem from its intention to join an anti-China coalition or align with the West's geopolitical agenda. India's primary motivation stems from its aspiration to become an economic powerhouse, akin to China's achievements. To achieve this, it needs Western investment and markets, as well as maritime freedom, including the semiconductor supply chain, to bolster its international trade. India is not acting maliciously toward China. Rather, it is acting in its own interests.